It's this time of the year, ladies and gentlemen. We are here again to look back and see the movies that I have seen all this year. They were good, they were bad, although, well, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna talk about the good ones. I will say that there were a few chunk of them that I like a lot. Not exactly kind of like big giant masterpieces that I could haul. Although I do admit that there were some that I missed, unfortunately. Like for example, one of the few regrets that I have not watching is I heard that The Northman was very good. Right now, I know that there's Babylon on movie theater, but it didn't catch enough my attention to catch it up. Although there is one movie in particular that many people were talking about it, but luckily made it on the list thanks to a friend of mine. But you will get it. But of course, that when it's like I reiterate. Usually this is kind of like a personal list that I try to go and see which ones I personally like, which one gave me kind of like a big emotions, and just as a heads up, if you are waiting for Avatar: The Way of Water into the list, it's not gonna be there because I think this movie has some more problems than it deserves to be in the top 10. Not many how doesn't matter how many times any pretentious movie awards guy I mean, here's a little bit of a rant, I'll say. The movie was nominated for Golden Globes awards even when the movie didn't come out. So that's really pretentious for Avatar, I'll say. And so it really doesn't deserve to be in that top 10 or something like that. Maybe it will be in yours if you kind of like it, but honestly, I'm still here ranting about Avatar: The Way of Water when I am supposed to be talking about my top 10 best movies of the year. So which movies are the ones that gave me, again, the lift of the emotions, the happy on my face, the ones that kept me saying that, wow, that was really good and made me fall in love with the movie industry. So let's not waste any time and let's get on with it. Like usual, I have my list here. Like I usually do is that I revisit some of all the videos that I did. Make the list of which ones I watch, and then like always I pick up in order which one make me happy, which and you know the deal. But like always, I always have to start out with the honorable mentions. The honorable mentions are usually the three movies that didn't make it to my top 10, but maybe you could call it kind of like that. The 13th place here and there, but usually top 10s are normally 10, and the other numbers are probably excused. But here goes. Let's get started. For my first honorable mention of the year, I would feel a little bit sad that I promised some people that this could be one of my lower top 10 of the year, but unfortunately I found things that are better. But I wish that this could have been one of my top 10, but the more I thought about it, I thought that it was just fine as it is, so I had to give it at least this spot. So my first honorable mention is none other than Sonic the Hedgehog 2. If you remember, I really loved the first movie, and I was really eager for the second one, but unfortunately, how can I say, there are some things that kinda made me a little bit worried. First of all, I thought that the introduction of Knuckles was a little bit too early because I wanted the movie to cement the relationship between Sonic and Tails, hence Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Although that was minor. That was a minor complaint that I have, even when I saw the movie. But the biggest complaint that I have with this movie that didn't make it to the top of the list is everything with James Marsden and his rom-com club that it even took over the movie for like a long time. I think like 12 minutes that it turns into Medea's wedding vacation or something like that with this character that I absolutely hated from the first movie, and I still hated it. So honestly, this is a movie that I thought that everything with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and even Dr. Eggman, played by Jim Carrey, those were great. Those were the fun of the movie. But whenever they cut with James Marsden and his rom-com club, the excitement is over. So I'm sorry to say, but James Marsden is clearly wanting to take the role as one of the worst Sonic characters, right alongside Chris Thorndike. And we know how many people who actually seen Sonic X, they despise that character, and James Marsden doesn't help. I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's kind of like a terrible actor or something like that, but the way they overutilize him and the way he kind of technically overshadows Sonic friends, and to turn it into technically almost hijack the whole movie, that's unforgivable. So unfortunately, this is the reason why I had to put it there. But still, it is a fun movie. I just wish they had less James Marsden. Oh, but and I hope they do that, because the next Sonic movie is gonna involve Shadow, and I can't wait for that one. Okay, my number 2. This is one that I also wanted to put it on the top 10, but I found something better. But it's mostly a little bit that is not gonna be on anyone's list, but it put me a happy smile on my face. So my second honorable mention is none other than Lyle Lyle Crocodile. That was a cute movie, I'm not gonna lie. It was something that it was a while that I just went there to see a family-friendly movie which involved a singing crocodile. And as a guy who didn't watch the Paddington movies, I can see why people kind of like these kind of movies. It's just something innocent in it that it makes you really feel good. And I watched this movie with my sister and her husband. And they all come out, saying that, oh yeah, it was nice, I'll say. But I really came out just kind of like just forgetting the cynicism out of myself and just enjoy the songs as it is. Nothing exactly kind of like memorable, but it was. But I gotta give it credit for it is. It's innocent. It's charming. It doesn't exactly dump you down. Although there is, of course, one or two poop jokes that it's maybe not into your liking. But either way, it does its job well done as a family-friendly film. Not exactly too dumbed down, and I think the movie kind of deserves to be watched more than what it is. It may be not for you. It's one of those that you need to have a little bit of an acquired taste and a little bit of an acquired forgiveness to family-friendly movies. But I can guarantee you one that there are worse examples of family-friendly movies than this, and this could easily go wrong. But luckily they didn't do that. And my third honorary mention actually is a horror movie that I never expected to actually like it. But again, I like a few movies better than this year, so this one didn't make it onto my top of the list. But I had to at least put it on my honorable mention, and that one is none other than Barbarian. And I gotta give it credit for surprising me for most of it, because you've seen the trailer and you kind of expected it, like for example, oh man, it's one of those movies in which some girl gets invited into a stranger's house and that stranger is bad news. and 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 then when you watch the movie, it brings out a curveball, and you see that it's something more than that. So I gotta say that the marketing of the movie, they play out the right cards to not spoil you the big moments. And while it could come out, as a run-of-the-mill horror movie that you're seeing once more or twice, that still it is a creepy setting. I give it credit for the creepy setting, the good acting, and overall the unsettling tone that it gets into it. Although there were two times that then the movie kind of switches tone, kind of like saying, okay, we're going to another tone, and then it turns into a kind of like another movie. But it is further used to emphasize and enrich this story in a kind of like a non-conventional narrative that I appreciate. So at the end of the day, it didn't make out of my top 10, but lo and behold, Barbarian, it did leave out such a barbaric impression out of me. Oh, and by the way, the title is still fools you out, by the way. So there, those are my 3 honorable mentions. So get ready, because it's time for me to give out my top 10 best movie of the year. And let's start it out. All right, let's start out with my number 10, which that obviously made it on the spot because, well, I'm a sucker for this guy, the Batman. Yep, I'm a sucker for Batman. I think that he makes better movies than Superman. No offense to Superman fans. I still like Superman, but I like Batman more. But okay. Although this one, I can see people, just groaning and saying, another Batman movie. How many Batman movies we're gonna get? And well, this one made it on the list because this one played out like a different kind of Batman movie compared to the other ones. Like, how can I explain it? A lot of Batman movies, they always center on being the, how can I say, on the action side, just going there, kicking bad guys and putting them to jail or scaring them to death. Or sometimes also they go with the psychology of his being, and you get the idea. We get movies like, for example, the Tim Burton Batman Returns, or the Batman Begins, or for other unconventional ones, like, for example, the Adam West Batman movie, or what was it? Mask of the Phantasm. It's also it's an animated and great one. Oh, and while on the subject, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. You gave a great voice to Batman. But well, I'm here to talk about the Batman, in which this one decided to go a little bit more on the roots of the comics, and they decided to not only be just action-packed. The action pack is actually more secondary compared to the detectiving skills that they gave. Okay, I twist my tongue. This one, what I meant to say is that the Batman decided to take a more detective approach, and it was wise to pick up, the Riddler as the main bad guy on this one, and boy, that they made him kind of like scarier, kind of like, kind of like an evil version of, those hackers and revolutionaries and man that and stirring up people and giving out, his riddles. It's amazing, and of course we got the other secondary character like Selena Kyle and James Gordon. All these actors, give out a good job, and again, it's not a conventional Batman because you just you see him, doing his detective skills, and there is some good action here and there. Here and there. I could say that it is a little bit long, but it does its job. Oh yeah, I forgot that the movie also has the penguin there. And it worked. It worked. I'm kind of glad that they took kind of like a refreshing approach of Batman. I don't know. I don't know what other Batman movie they're gonna be now that the Snyder universe is gone. But at least this is one out of the Snyderverse that I feel grateful for it. Let's continue on with my number 9. It's just another movie, animated movie that just brought me a smile on my face. Is that bad enough? Yeah, it's not bad enough. I'm talking about the bad guys. I gotta commend this movie to bring me a smile on my face, and considering that, well, this is a DreamWorks movie, and I never expected something grand and major. I just wanted to see, well, some good animation, and I gotta commend it that they did a great job on making the animation really look jumpy, dynamic. I love the character models. I love especially the eyes, and that you can see that the eyes is 2D, and it kind of gave out kind of like this great result here and there. As for the story, well, it's simple as it is. And by the way, it's based on a book that I gave a little bit of a research about it, and it goes places. I'll say, and the characters are still charming. Not exactly for me, the snake, because, well, I do have a bit fear of a snake, but it does its job. Making a story about, well, the bad guys who they kind of get a taste of doing good things. It's a little bit hammer on the message that it pays off to being a good guy more than a bad guy, but it does. Yeah, but for a family-friendly movie, it does its job, and I gotta also give it credit because for the first time in my life, I saw an Aquafina role that didn't make me wanna bang my head onto the wall. If you saw me last year I wasn't a fan of her roles, especially in Shang-Chi and Raya. Raya and the you-know-what. So honestly, I was like, did I just saw a movie that had Aquafina and I wasn't bothered with it. So thank you bad guys to giving a chance to an actress that I wasn't very fond of. But still, it is a fun, dynamic movie that I really love the energy that it had. My number 8 is it's another one that I don't think is gonna be top of them all, but I just had kind of like a good enjoyment out of it. And I gotta thank Nicolas Cage for the unbearable weight of massive talent. It's just Nicolas Cage playing a fictional version of himself with a fictional family, and he goes to see Pedro Pascal, who is kind of like this crime lord, and it's kind of cute. You're gonna enjoy, Nicolas Cage, playing out, a fictional himself, but still being the Nicolas Cage that we just and love. And it kind of works, of course, that he and Pedro Pascal had this chemistry, and I just came out, laughing at some of his things, and well, I do have kind of like obscure references to, the cute references that he had with other movies. Some of them I don't know, but man, that it just gave me a smile on my face. Although it kind of also it's a little bit sad, and considering that the movie also kind of makes has this makes fun that Nicolas Cage is basically a struggling actor, and he has, tax problems, and he kind of has to do what he has to do. Again, it does make it in a fictional version. He has kind of, I think it was his ex-wife. I don't remember much, and I don't know. I don't know if he has. I think he has a son or a daughter. You know what? I don't remember exactly what it is, but the movie plays out that he has a daughter. But that's not exactly kind of like the big thing. It just plays out kind of like this fun movie that that some of the jokes really works, and it really leads up to a nice action-packed climax. And by the way, also this movie kind of makes, one thing that I forgot to mention in my vlog is that this movie makes you very curious to watch Paddington 2. Many people told me that Paddington 2 is really good, and I didn't give myself, the time to watch it, but again, it shows up twice in the movie. It kind of makes you curious to see, hey, you know what? Paddington 2 is good. Leave it to Nicolas Cage to how can I say, persuade me to watch a movie that not many people could have seen. But I don't have much exactly else to say. But you know what? That's the unbearable weight that Nicolas Cage has. Okay then, so my number 7, I have to apologize. I have to apologize because I don't do this very often. And what I mean is that I have to put not one but 2 movies in it, because these movies share kind of like the same universe, and I like them both kind of like equally, so I couldn't separate one from another out of respect. So I decided to put both X and Pearl as number 7. I never expected to put these two high on my list, especially considering that, let's say that this is kind of like my apology to Ty West. I think I remember talking on my vlogs that I was never a fan of Ty West. I respect him as a movie maker, but I've seen shit from him that I had a bad start with him. I wasn't a fan, of his segment of VHS, and I also wasn't a fan of his segment in the ABCs of Death. But then came along X, and I was surprised at the amount of balls that the movie had. It kind of making it kind of like this love letter to exploitation movies in Technicolor, that he basically emulated the whole thing, and it also solidified itself with a solid yet creepy premise about these guys trying to make it big on the pornography filmmaking, but unfortunately they just landed on a farm in which they have this crazy lady who is too into it and wants to be part of it, and she's kind of also frustrated that with that her husband can't do with her because, well, he's old and sick, I'll say. But the biggest factor that X had in terms of acting is this actress named Mia Goth, who she really managed to double her performances as the main lead as well as the main villain of the woman named Pearl. And of course, this leads up into some disturbing and yet effective horror, I'll say. This one doesn't pull the punches. Although there is this movie called Studio 666 that have a much more gorier death than this one, that couldn't make it on the list for some other factors. Well, it didn't have, the X factor that this movie had. Get it? Because this movie is it's also about the X factor. And and like I said, this movie also tied with the prequel movie that came out months later. I never knew that it was come out, in the same year. I thought it was gonna come out, wait for another year. I did knew that there was gonna be a prequel about it, but never thought that it would come out a little bit early. And I like that prequel. I kind of like it better, in which it kind of comes off kind of like this twisted fairy tale, and still filmed, on with Technicolor filters, and to make it feel like one of those old musicals with a dark turn. And you see that Mia Goth again plays out kind of like a younger version of Pearl. Yeah. And you kind of understand, of course, where this character comes from kind of like this very strict Christian mother, the father who is kind of like catatonic, and she just wants to get out and showcase that she can dance and everything. And this all, of course, leads up to a really, really twisted turn of events, and this character becomes insane, and Mia Goth sells it, and making this character both pitiful, but at the same time really, really scary, I'll say. So I gotta say that Mia Goth did manage to portray this character wonderfully. And I know that there's another movie coming up, and I'm up to it. I'm up to it if those two really manage to sell me out enough to make it a tie. My number 6 is my first streaming on the movie on the list. There are a few of them here, but I think that this one also deserves to be on the list. And that one is My Father's Dragon. Cartoon Saloon made it on my list again. At this one, I watched it with. I did watch it, on Netflix, and I was actually waiting for this movie, considering that one, it has a dragon, and two, it's Cartoon Saloon, this animation studio that I highly respect, and in the end, I really got a kind of like a really, really cute. A really cute story that I heard that it deviates a little bit from the book. I haven't even seen the Japanese anime based on the book, but when you kind of give it kind of like a creative spin, but still maintaining some faithfulness to the original story, that enriches it, and I felt this one a lot. I already talked about how much I like the characters. I like the dragon itself, in which the dragon is kind of like, sometimes a little bit talkative that may turn off people, but it maintains its kind of like its innocence. And let's not forget that again is Cartoon Saloon, and Cartoon Saloon is. They cemented themselves as powerhouses when it's about Irish animation. And it shows with the fluid movements, the wonderful background scenery when they wanted to showcase to portray kind of like a moment in which it just let it all out, and you just see how much they work on the. Bringing the kind of like some kind of magic in the ambience, and it does well, as well that it kind of comes up, as a great theme, that sometimes you get scared on things that are out of control, and sometimes you have to. And sometimes you feel like you have, the power to do things, but unfortunately, you make things worse, and you feel afraid of it. that enriches kind of like a story that comes out that it's not exactly, how can I say, family friendly, but it takes it with enough maturity that that it just warms your heart. And this one is one of the most heartwarming movies I have seen this year. Speaking of heartwarming, number 5 is one that you gotta. It has a lot of layers. It has a lot of layers in filmmaking, in emotions, but lo and behold, that was one of my first surprises of the year, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I came out a little bit late to the party when this movie came out. I was doing some other stuff, and until I began to hear people saying that, this one is really good. You had to watch it, and lo and behold, I did. And for a movie that they had Jackie Chan in mind, they really came up with something a little bit more clever, and they picked Michelle Yeoh into that movie, and she did also a great job portraying this mother who she's kind of struggling with her taxes. She has her husband who is kind of like very meek, and her father who doesn't appreciate her more, and her daughter who she's basically angry at her, and she has her girlfriend here and there, and then things then turn crazy when apparently another version of her husband comes in saying, hey, you gotta help me, that there's this kind of like this evil that is making this catastrophe on other versions of yourself. And man, that this movie takes multiple dimensions, the multiverse concept much better than Doctor Strange that came out this year also. And it gets crazier and crazier, and let's not forget, it also has some crazy action scenes, and that, man, the choreography is incredible in this one, and at first you get a little bit confused by saying, what is going on? And what I mean crazier is that the things that the establishment of the rules that the movie had. Like, for example, one of them begins to say that, well, in order for you to get the how can I say, the talents or the powers from that specific world, you must basically do something kind of like insane. You're gonna do something insane in order to activate it, and things kind of ranges from paper cuts to putting a butt plug on your butt. But despite this, the craziness, it takes a while until it kind of goes into kind of like this deep storyline about that sometimes, well, you could wish for better things, but at the end of the day, you should also be appreciated. You can be appreciated for what you got. That everything that at the end of the day, there's some things that you could appreciate, or you might think about doing things that could have done better in your life, but at the same time, well, it's basically your life, and you have technically the power to make do what you do, and it comes out as it's charming, let's say, like a good message that it has, and again, it basically involves your world. It's basically your world, and you basically have the power to accept what is coming, and do what you must do in order to make things better, and it kind of goes against the nihilistic approach that the antagonist has. And of course, this message could have been a little bit more, how can I say, better if it doesn't have, those such things. Oh, and also let's give it credit because this movie has kind of like the best Ratatouille bootleg they have ever put. Even better than any Disney remake. Okay. Number 4 is another movie that came out in streamings, but well, it is based on one of my favorite movies of all time, but they made a sequel out of it, and that is none other than Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. I grew up with Beavis and Butthead, and in my short vlog, I did said that Beavis and Butthead Do America is one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember having a great time at the movie theater when I saw that, and then I saw this one, and boy, that it was during this time in which I was begging for a good animated movie, because a lot of animated movies that came out this year wasn't exactly spectacular, except for the bad guys, like I said. But of course, the bad guy is the only thing that differentiate from Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe is that Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe is 2D animated, and this is an art form that is either dead or underappreciated. And it was kind of like a breath of fresh air to see, these two thunderheads come back, and it came out as funny as you could remember, and it gives out a crazy plot. I know, right? They go to space and they travel through time, and all this to score with one woman who wants nothing to do with it. And then things get crazier when they're getting signs from apparently smarter versions of themselves, but they're not exactly as smart as you could think. That makes it kind of like hilarious. And every single moment I just came out laughing of the idiocy that these guys had. Although I did, of course, say that I still like Do America better than this one, but it's mostly minor. For example, I still think that Mike Judge, he can't do the Beavis voice like he used to, and I know that it's technically taken for granted that, well, he sounded better in the past than now, because I think that he broke his voice and he can't do the Beavis voice as he used to. So I'm not exactly kind of like picky on that. And I think that the Do America has a kind of like a more epic but a more focused plot compared to Do the Universe. But still, it is enough for me to make it on a list as one of the best animated movies I have seen, at least in this year. Well, the Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, well, they certainly do me a solid. And come to think of it, they did skip the world for that one. Alright, everyone, now it's time for the big three. The big 3 movies that made it on my list, and these ones are the ones that gave me the biggest impact this year. So let's start with number 3. I don't think this is gonna be on anyone's list, but well, sometimes stupidity, when I see stupidity on screen, is enough to, give me a good laugh. So this is why my number 3 is none other than Jackass Forever. I loved Jackass when I was in high school, and man, I have to give it at least my number 3 because this movie, it gave me one of the most laughable experiences that I had for a long time. I came in wanting to watch this movie, and man, I just came out laughing my ass off. It's been a big while that I just gave genuine laughter out of it, and it took a lot of dumb people doing stupid stuff stunts, and well, you're just having a good time. In the terms of good time, what they call. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy who will dare to do stuff like that. And man, how can I say it? Oh, how can I say it? It was kind of like sweet watching, all these guys, the old team and some new guys, they're doing all these stunts that nobody else will dare to do it, but still they just break their bones, shred their skins, or they basically take a beating out for the sake of laughter. So this is kind of like both stupid but at the same time commendable. And again, like I said, it's bittersweet because if you kind of follow these guys, you know that two of them couldn't make it. Ryan Dunn couldn't make it because he passed away in a tragic accident, and Ben Margera, he couldn't make it except for one skit. But he has kind of like there were some legal problems here and there that I'm not gonna get too much into it. But still watching, the rest of the team doing those crazy stuff is still, it kind of puts you a smile on their face, even though you're gonna feel guilty for, laughing at their pain. And you can, but of course you can see that some of the older guys, they just restrain themselves on the stunts, but still doing hardcore stuff, especially Johnny Knoxville. You kind of feel for him because there are moments in which you see him, with the, with his black hair, and then when his hair is now totally white, and it's amazing that he decided to go through, one stunt. Again, with one stunt that almost paralyzed him, at least in my opinion. But of course, you get some other crazy stuff. Like I still sometimes revisit it on YouTube, and I still laugh at the guys, going crazy in the dark, thinking that there's a rattlesnake inside of it, inside the room. I mean. But either way, because they made me laugh so hard, this is why I had to put it on my top 3 of my best movie of the year. So let's continue on with my number 2, which I never expected this one to be really, really high, because I think that director is a little bit overrated, but I chew my tongue at this one because when he does right, he does right. And I mean that my number 2 on best movie of the year is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. In a year that we have, we call it kind of like the year of Pinocchio, because during each season, a Pinocchio movie comes out, and it kind of stays on mainstream for a while, and that everyone's gonna talk about it. First, it started out with what was it, Pauly Shore, Pinocchio. It's an animation from Russia. That one I saw, it sucked, but I kind of bully it for a while, and a video that I made a video out of it, but unfortunately it came out very badly, so I had to scrap it out. And then Disney tried out again with Robert Zemeckis, and boy that I heard of the awful things, and I didn't get into it because, my God, I am not exactly a fan of Disney remaking old classics. So, but I've been hearing the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio for a while, that for many times that he was very passionate on trying something like that. And the biggest crime that this movie had is that it wasn't shown mainstream on big screens. Because when I saw this movie, a lot of emotions came from me. I felt joy because it was a very hard work stop motion animation. I felt sadness, pity, because it is technically a bittersweet story. it has his happy moments, but but when the emotions hit hard, it hits hard, and it doesn't sugarcoat anything. Especially considering that they decided to set this movie on fascist Italy. It has some World War II analogies, but they're just there to enrich, the story of, Pinocchio. And you kind of root for the character. It's mysterious like the original story, but at the same time, they make him learn, even when even they gave him, a certain kind of compassion, showing that he's not exactly a bad puppet. He's a good puppet, and they gave him kind of like. The movie also gave out a more three-dimensionality to Geppetto, which is not exactly done many times, in any Pinocchio story. And again, I talk about the hard work stop motion animation, and it hits hard, and even the ending really hit me hard, and I almost shed a tear on that one. And so I gotta say that, like I said, I think that Guillermo del Toro sometimes is a little bit overrated because, well, he does good movies. I'm still not a fan of Crimson Peak or Pacific Rim. But either way, he proved me wrong. And I'm glad to swallow my pride by saying that Benicio del Toro, Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio is one of my best movies of the year. Actually very high on the list. But who topped it all off? Who topped my number one best movie of the year? Well, I checked it twice. I checked my emotions, and I had to think of a movie that it made me feel pumped and made me feel happy for it. And that kind of proves that sometimes you have to make a big service, on just being a fun action-packed movie with a lot of heart, not exactly taking some risks, on the stunt department, and you'll get kind of like this genuine movie that it made me feel good to, being late to the party. So I'm here to say that my number one best movie of the year is Top Gun Maverick. When I meant that I came late to the party, is that I haven't seen the first Top Gun during the time. But that is, and when Top Gun Maverick came out, I wasn't too keen to watch it because I haven't seen the first one. But I'm beginning to hear a lot of people saying that this movie is great, this movie is amazing, you have to watch it, and it was staying there for a long time. But still, I wasn't into it until a friend of mine came, and he says that he wanted to watch Top Gun with Maverick with me, and I was like, but I haven't seen the first one. So how about if you watch it and then tell me when we're going? Fine, I'll do that. I watched the first one, and I like it fine. I like it very good, and I can see why it was. I think that it was kind of like a fine film, about going to doing your best, in being a pilot, and a jet pilot, I would say, or I'm not exactly knowledgeable on planes and all these things. But it did have, his heart in the right place, and I came out, enjoying what it is. Still, it had a killer soundtrack. I really liked the soundtrack of the first Top Gun. After that, I called my friend and say, "Yep, I'm ready. Let's go watch Top Gun Maverick." it blew up my expectations. Because it's not only a little bit of a rehash of the first movie, but it took some of the things of the first movie and made it better. It had it's not exactly a carbon copy of the original. There are some moments that it goes into familiar territory, but then it's mostly used. It kind of makes it up for it by giving kind of like a big closure, especially to one event that happened in the first movie. It does that, and it brings out it cemented the character of Maverick to become the better man and come into terms with one of his biggest regrets, and it also feels very exhilarating because a lot of the stunts that the movie has are real. You'll see a lot of the people under fighter jets, and you see how methodologically they are getting ready for a big mission that they have to do, and then there comes the climax. That man, that is exhilarating, and you feel actually kind of like feel it. There's something interesting that this movie makes you feel on the edge of the seat, and it worked. And I haven't felt that for a long time. That me and my friend, when the movie ended, we look at ourselves in the eye. It was like, you know what? That was great. That was a great. That was the movie. Almost had almost everything. Not exactly perfect, and it didn't need it to be. It was. It did what it did. It entertained us. It had the heart in the right place, and so much humility. This movie has so much that even Tom Cruise was ballsy enough to give thanks to the fans and jump out of the plane. Tom Cruise he certainly deserves to be called the last action movie star, considering the stuff the stunts that he does. And in a world that people are depending on CGI or stunt doubles in order to create stunts, and I'm not mind saying that, because stunt doubles, they do deserve a lot of credit than what they are getting. Watching movies like Top Gun Maverick, they kind of remind me that, and so this is why I had no choice to put Top Gun Maverick as my best movie of the year. So anyway, those were my top 10 best movie of the year, alongside with the 3 honorable mentions, and I hope that I persuade you to see any of those. Did they make you on the list? Well, let me know. Let me know. This is why this is our YouTube vlog. But of course, whenever there's a good one, there's always the stinkers. But that's for another video. So thanks again, everyone, and I hope you like all movies as much as these movies make me love movies. See you in the next video.